Um, I would, like, the thing is that I would say, like, you see, the first building, what we're talking about, as everybody understands now, the first building is the fiber building, right, which costs $1,400 a month.
Right.
So, I think to do an analysis, um, now you were saying, Jason, that see, actually, it wouldn't matter if even if it's in the cluster because the costs are the same. Like it's still the same amount of equipment.
Are you talking about the cost per internet subscriber?
No, if I go back to what you were just mentioned before, and I said,
Right.
actually, it wouldn't change anything being in a cluster or not, because those costs those costs still apply to every building, even if they're in the cluster.
Well, the difference would be is the requiring those wireless Gig E devices on the roof, because only one per block is going to be required, and then we can just hardwire them.
Right, exactly. But I mean, you're still needing those hubs and whatnot in the buildings, right?
Right, right.
So-
Depending on the amount of subscribers, but yeah, we're definitely going to need the 15,000 setup fee. What was that for?
That is for Execuling to go in there and set up all the equipment and everything.
Okay, so that's like the OCAM and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, yeah. So that's 25. That 15,000 setup fee and the $10,000 per hub. That's not including any of the wireless devices.
Oh, I see. You were saying that part of that 15,000, you were saying, was the cost of the fiber install, right?
Well, I asked you. Remember, I asked you. I said, "What's that 25,000? What's going to be the cost of it?" I didn't know what it included. I just wrote that down because that's what you had told me.
Right.
So I guess the 25,000 includes sort of the Execuling setup downstairs, but it doesn't include any
Well,
wireless transmission on the roof.
yeah. And actually, come to think about it, I think it did include a fiber install of 5,000. So, so then, if I'm not mistaken,
You've got a Japanese family in your mouth. What? I can't understand you, and I'm standing right here.
okay, yeah,
I have an idea. Think of the 25, the 15, and the 10. I'd break it down for this building only. Subsequent buildings, I might look at that 25 and call that 13, which is the cost of the antennae. But I wouldn't worry about subsequent buildings. I think we're going to overwhelm this guy with one building.
I know, but you see, I personally don't feel that we should look at everything, look at it on a single building basis, because it's not really representing what we should look at, the potential of one building is 6 buildings.
Well, I mean, my opinion, I think the best way to do it is no one proposal is going to be the same as another. So that after we receive that application for proposal stating the amount of buildings they have, the number of units, we then have to survey the area, see whether there's more than one building on the same block, see how many units there are, and then work through the numbers to see what makes sense. And we could also take into consideration what other potential buildings are on the block. But we should go by proposal as to what we could offer the landlord, because what may make sense for one landlord may not make sense for another, just because it's going to be more cost for one, more cost for another.
Yeah,
Does that make any sense?
I think everybody agrees with that. But the thing is that I would say as well is that if our strategy is to cluster, then, you know, I think what we gotta do is we gotta look at, you know, costs for six buildings in an area, you know, and amortize the cost over 6 buildings, not just do it per building,
So
because,
when you say 6 buildings, are you talking about that we receive an application for 6 buildings in that area, or one building that we receive an application and then 5 other potential ones?
yeah, 1 building and 5 others. Like,
See, we get ourselves into trouble because what happens if we don't get those 5?
if we don't get those 5, then it's because basically, yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to, but I think when you make a plan, your plan's gotta be okay. Well, I suppose we can do worst case scenario, we only get 1 building, this is what it's gonna cost. And then,
Exactly.
and then the other scenario is our normal scenario, which, you know, let's say we look at it from 6 buildings, right?
Exactly. Or we could even consider, we make the worst case scenario for the 1 building, and then if the 5 other, if they get signed up, then maybe we can start increasing, give some more incentive to get them signed up. Maybe they'll get an extra dollar, or, you know what I mean? Just start with the worst case scenario, because if we start giving them too much, expecting more, and we don't get more, then
I think I would categorize this discussion this way. I think proposal 1 building, worst case scenario, works anywhere in the country.
yeah.
Proposal 2, this cluster approach, several buildings. This first pitch, I don't think we can go after a cluster with this guy. I just think it's too much to throw at him. I think we can go back and say, guess what? We want to incentivize you for helping us in the cluster. And we can calculate that cost that we're paying him if we use him.
When you say
We may
this
not
guy,
need
are you
him.
talking about the beach proposal?
No, we were talking about, because we're meeting in Toronto, some people from Desteron who have properties like, they have like about 10 properties, but they're all each in different cities.
I see.
But actually, one of their properties is in London, and
So
you
basically, if they can give us a summary of how many units in each building, we can work through the numbers, find out what the costs are for all those buildings, find out how much we can give them, and just give them a proposal based on that.
yeah, that's true. We don't have to.
Is it 200 units? That's what it came up. Isn't it?
Well, one of their buildings, yeah, is 225 units, which is in Marlborough Court in Oakville.
Okay, so why doesn't Jason do the one on 225?
Yeah, so, okay, if you can actually, Jason, if you could do a proposal then for the worst case scenario,
Okay?
which is 1 building with 225 units,
Okay?
and then, I guess,
Those 48 breakers.
what's that?
Those
Yeah.
48 subscriber breakdowns.
Yeah, and every 48 subscribers,
1 to 48, 49 to 96.
yeah, you change the capital
97,
cost, so for your payback,
Yeah.
because in your spreadsheet you were only using the 25,000.
Yeah, right.
So if you can actually use the increments of 48,
Sure.
and then if you can also use a best case scenario of, let's say, 10 buildings in one cluster. So you have a one-time cost, well, a monthly cost of $1,400 a month for the.
Now, is that going to be something that we're already paying for, or is that going to be a new fiber install?
No, that would be like a new fiber install.
Okay?
No, but that's not the cost of the fiber install. Forget about the cost of the fiber install.
No, I
That-
understand, but if you were to set up a new fiber building, that would be the monthly cost.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would assume that cost because we can always delete it.
but the thing is that in your 10 building scenario, just use the one monthly cost of $1,400 a month,
Okay.
and then use your other costs that you had.
Okay.
Like everything is, your spreadsheets look accurate and good, except for the increments of 48.
Okay?
and also the
15,000 increasing, $10,000.
yeah. Well, that's the increments.
And they're running 1,400.
And they're running 1,400.
Actually, it's 1,600, right?
No, because he's factored in already the cost per unit, per
Okay.
the internet unit.
All right.
So it's just that.
Okay, let me do that.
There's more to this, Harvey, in the sense that, okay, so let's go with this 10 building best case scenario.
Okay.
We're going to have the cost of fiber going to one of their buildings, one of those 10,
Right.
right?
Uh-huh.
And then are those other buildings, the other 9, are they going to be in the same block?
Well, we should probably put that we have to go point to point. Let's say
For
on
each one of them.
yeah, so $13,000
So
extra.
they're in the 1.6 kilometer range, but they're not on the same block.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay? And now, it depends on how many units are in those buildings again, because another building that has 400 units is going to require more bandwidth, a better device, a more expensive one than one that would only require 50.
Yeah,
That would
I
all
think
have
we
50
should.
units.
Let's look at for now 250 unit buildings.
Okay?
So that you know we maybe then that we get 80% of, and so you know it will have 200 subscribers.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean maybe then after 10 we could do 5 after or something like that, 5 buildings,
Sure.
and we'll do different.
So- Now, when I make this proposal, is this actually going to someone?
Yeah, it's actually going to go to this guy in Toronto who we're having supper with.
That's just for building one. That's
Yeah, for
that's
building
for one
one,
standalone
yeah.
building.
Okay. I see. Okay, well, did you get the, I mean, I don't know how formal you guys are with this guy, but did you get that sort of application for proposal? Because once we get that filled out, then all our numbers can be exactly accurate, and their potential, the numbers we give them will be exactly accurate.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we'll definitely, you know, once we speak with them and get an idea of if they're on board with what we're talking about, then they'll fill out that form,
Okay.
and they'll give us, and then we can come up with like a very accurate proposal, right?
Okay, good. Sounds good.
So yeah, yeah. So if you can work on the one building,
Yep.
the single building. Could you email it to Bill
Yep.
Bill?
and copy me?
Yep.
So Bill, you have his email address, eh?
Yep.
Okay, and that way, when do you think you'll be able to do the single building?
When are you having dinner with the guys?
At 6 o'clock.
Tonight?
Yeah. I know you're busy, so it you know it doesn't really matter if you can get it ready for tomorrow or the next day or whatever.
Well, I'll see what I can do, and I'll for sure email you, Bill before 6 o'clock, and it'll either be with an attachment or saying that I'll have to send it tomorrow.
All right, that's great.
And
Okay.
just one thing, Harvey, if you could send me, or if you guys could just spend a couple minutes breaking down what you think the costs are going to be, because the cost of sort of the fiber and the wireless devices, just for your own estimates, because or for the estimates I can use for this, because there's going to be different, ranges of prices for these things.
Well, I'm using $13,000 for the wireless equipment.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they'll get more accurate as we go, but I mean, just for now, anyways.
Okay, so just let me see if I got these numbers right. There's the 13,000. Well, for the one building, that won't even matter, right?
No.
And we are going to have the 1,400 and
Yeah, 1,400. You've gotten your cost per subscriber, which I believe you used the amount that I gave you on the bandwidth, which was like, remember, a gig of, and I told you it was 11,000. So you've already put
Yeah.
that in, yeah.
yeah. Okay. All right, and so the 10 buildings you don't need by tonight, right?
No, don't worry about that.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay.
Okay, try your best. I mean, if you can, I understand it's really busy, and like,
No problem.
there's no problem at all.
No problem.
Okay, thanks, Jason.
All right, thanks.
All right, bye.
That's too bad about Margaret.
What's that?
Yeah. He drive me so crazy.
Why?
Because you can
I think-
and on and on.
Oh,
And you got
the
things
worst
to do,
was like
Howie.
while I'm eating and I'm
Yeah,
thinking
and then
of-
you have to eat, and
Yeah,
then you're
yeah.
like with open mouth, you know. your face.
I know.
It might be your looks.
It's
Howie, I don't know how we gonna
it's-
change you, Howie.
it's yeah, eating and talking is the worst. Or figuring.
But